Hey, welcome or welcome back. Remember when you blew into a cartridge, slapped it in and the game just worked? No 50GB day one patch, no privacy policy agreement, no battle passes, just you and the game. Good times. Lately, it feels like the industry is trying to see how much abuse we can take before we quit. From $20 skins to games that launch broken, mobile gaming often feels like it's in a serious decline. Today, we're breaking down exactly why new games suck, but stick around because the answer might actually surprise you. First up, let's talk about the elephant in the room, monetization. It used to be that you paid 40 or 50 bucks and you got the whole game. You know, one you could play from start to finish and not worry you'll be stopped in your progression or have to get mandatory DLC. Crazy concept, right? Now $60, maybe $70 just buys you an entry fee to a digital storefront or an unfinished product requiring extra purchases of additional DLC to get all the content. And that kinda sucks. Over time we've gone from horse armor to monetization schemes fine-tuned with psychological tricks. Stuff like variable rewards aka loot boxes, FOMO and frustration loops, all engineered to keep you spending. Publishers aren't wondering if the games are fun anymore, they're asking how can we frustrate the player enough to make them pay to skip the part and have the board of directors happy. You know, two birds, one stone. Compare all of this to a timeless classic like Chrono Trigger on SNES. A pretty fantastic JRPG with a truly phenomenal plot. A single purchase got you a sprawling time travel epic, a dozen different endings and a new game plus mode that begged for replays. No coins, no armor of invincibility, no weird level boosts. Just respect for you and your wallet. Reason number 2, the release now fix later mentality. AAA gaming has normalized selling as beta versions at full price. You know, all the early access games that you get to quote-unquote try out, never knowing if the bugs will be fixed or the game even released. We aren't players anymore to the publishers, we're unpaid quality assurance testers and sponsors. And yes, this ship now patch later model is now industry standard.
Bloodstains. Not quite scrubbed clean.
Studios push games out to meet a fiscal deadline, knowing full well that they're unfinished. You know, the frame rate drops to single digits if you look at the puddle the wrong way, the quest lines are unfinished, buggy or straight up broken, and the promised content is not delivered at all. Just think back to the state Cyberpunk 2077 launched in. Day one patches over 40GB in size, game-breaking bugs, lawsuits and even a temporary PlayStation Store delisting. It's a brilliant game now, sure, but at release it was disrespectful to gamers. And yeah, I was one of the fools who pre-purchased. Laugh away in the comments. These days, devs promise a roadmap of fixes. And I don't want a roadmap, I want a destination. Look at Super Mario World from 1990. Nintendo delayed things until they were right. They didn't shove it out half-baked just to hit a fiscal quarter. They worked on it until it was complete, features and all. I mean, if that game shipped with a bug that deleted your save, they couldn't patch it, so they didn't risk it. True, it was a different era, but given how expensive games are now, there is no excuse. Nintendo had to get it right the first time, and you know what? They actually did. Is it just me, or does nearly every AAA game feel the same now? Open world? Check. Crafting system? Check. Climb the tall thing to reveal icons on a map? Check. It's the so-called Ubisoft formula, you know, the safe formula. Innovation is risky, does not guarantee sales, so all the big publishers just recycle what worked in titles like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. Naturally, slightly tweaking the themes and aesthetics. It may not be every single game out there, but it's definitely way too many. If there's no real meaningful plot behind it all, then it's just a sea of fetch quests and shallow mechanics designed to pad out the runtime so the devs can claim that their game has over 100 hours of gameplay, or some other bullshit. Yeah, sure, it's 100 plus, but 85 of those hours are boring fetch quests or just traversal. I mean, there's fun in Discovery too, I'm not gonna deny that. Seeing all those beautiful new locations is kinda fulfilling, but if they're reusing the same assets or are a carbon copy of one another, like when Far Cry Primal reused demo layout from Far Cry 4, then the game's a bit shit, isn't it? Take Metal Gear Solid for instance. It didn't follow a formula started by anything else, it built on real stealth games ideas but redefined the genre to what we now consider a cinematic standard. And that's why it won the hearts of millions of gamers. It took risks with camera angles, storytelling, mechanics and to some degree even breaking the fourth wall. Its cinematic cutscenes, full voice acting, and meta tricks, like Psycho Mantis reading a memory card, were groundbreaking in 1998. It wasn't trying to be everything to everyone, it was trying to be the Metal Gear, and it freaking aced it. In many cases, AAA games development cycles are now taking up to 7 years on average. If you're Bethesda or a similar big dev with big ambitions, that can easily stretch to 8, 9 or even over a decade. You'd think that means that the games would be masterpieces, right? Instead we get the titles designed to please the board of directors, investors or other people who truly benefit from the releases. And don't get me wrong, I realize that the dev studios are businesses that have to bring in money to operate, but there's a clear difference between games released to be fun and those made to please corporate suits and focus groups that strip away the artistic vision in favor of potential profitability until the original idea is no more than a hollow shell. When a game takes close to a decade to make, when so many people and resources are invested in it, it has to sell millions of copies just to break even. And that kills creativity. Because going for what sells, rather than going for what could be fun, is the default safe choice. It's not art anymore. It's a shallow product made for everyone, so made for no one. Let's take a look at Final Fantasy VII from 1997 for contrast. It had huge budget for its time, massive scope, stellar and thought-provoking story, and only took around 3 years to complete. Some would say that it was close to 5 because it was originally supposed to release on SNES, but that would have been another game. What's more, and most importantly, it had a soul. It was weird, emotional and risky. It wasn't designed by a spreadsheet of best/safe choices, it was made for you to enjoy it and to make you think, to make you ponder about stuff, and that's why everyone loved it. Now this one scares me the most, because it touches me on a very personal level. Since while I do enjoy the classics, I'm first and foremost a gamer, not a classic gamer mind you, and I buy and play modern games too. And today, you don't really own your games anymore. You bring a license to play them, not the game itself, which seriously sucks. Like an old hair-covered lollipop you found under your bed, maybe more. Because if the license holder ever goes under, as unlikely as it may be, or decides to close support for a particular title and its downloads, that we've actually seen more than once, you lose access to something you paid the full price for, forever. Poof! And it dissolves like a wet fart in a crowded donut shop line. I mean, we don't even have to look that far. Remember The Crew? A fun, online multiplayer racer? People paid money for it and Ubisoft pulled the plug when they decided that it's not profitable for them to keep servers live anymore. They didn't offer any online modes or private server options, they just turned off the lights and gave gamers a huge middle finger. Oh, and it goes without saying that in the meantime, they've naturally released The Crew 2 and later The Crew Motorfest, because the money must be rolling. The original game is digital dust today, and that kind of behavior created a dangerous precedent and erodes trust. I mean, why would you invest in games which you have literally no rights to? I know that I've been using games from the 90s and mainly from Nintendo to paint my counterself throughout the video, but they're a perfect example. I'm sure you agree. And I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me for doing this last time too. Imagine a hypothetical situation. You had a terrible day at work, you come back home, grab a dinner and want to play your favorite Zelda game to relax. Let's say that it's The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. So you put it in SNES and it plays exactly the same as it did 30 years ago and no one can take it away. Unless your cartridge or console physically fails, it will always run. There is no switch on the other side of the internet that can render it unusable. That's true ownership. This one I'm a little torn about. Let me explain. It seems that over the last decade or so, we've been laser focused on chasing photorealism, which is fine, but not at the cost of playability. And as much as I'm interested in seeing where the graphics can go in the future, I'm definitely not willing to sacrifice fun. And sadly, that often seems to be the case. Developers are obsessed with the person character's face, the reflection in a puddle, or the number of folds on your on-screen's avatar's shirt. But then you pick up the controller and it's just not fun. Sure, it looks near photorealistic, but also sometimes runs poorly or feels shallow, like a slideshow made out of boredom and beautiful pictures. Many big-budget studios are spending millions on actors, motion capture and cinematic presentation, creating interactive movies rather than video games. It's a spectacle over substance and it just feels flat. Once the credits roll, there's no reason to ever play many of these new AAA games ever again. Fortunately, we still have indies, but that's something we'll talk about later. I may be reaching too far back, but I feel like Tetris is the best example here as it offers the biggest contrast. I mean, it's just blocks, that's it. But the gameplay loop is so perfect, I can't imagine anything being more addictive, and people are still competing in it today and across dozens of different platforms. It proves that the gameplay is always king and that the graphics are just a mere crown. And modern games often fall in the trap of dressing the king up and giving him no personality, so to speak. One cannot dump on modern video game design and not mention live service nightmare. So one does. I mean, I do. It feels like many of these modern games are not made to be your hobby or means of escapism anymore, they're made to be a second job. Daily loggings, weekly challenges, limited time offers, seasonal bonuses and loot boxes, FOMO all around. And you just can't not fall for it not to be left behind. If you take a week off, you've a lot to make up for, and it's not always something easily fixed. Granted, it's something that mainly plagues MMOs, online shooters and mobile games, but it's also not something I can left unmentioned. Instead of complete experience or even just big expansion packs, the devs drip feed us content constantly to keep engagement metrics high. And it's exhausting. I really don't want a 10-year relationship with a shooter, I want to play a game and finish it with an option to also play it against others. Truth be told, I'm a bit dramatic here as I don't play shooters that much these days anymore, but my point is still valid. I'm sure that many of you can guess the game I'll use in a section that takes a jab at FPSs, and yes, it just had to be Half-Life. You started it, you experienced a revolution in storytelling, game design and game flow, and then you finished it with a smile on your face and satisfaction in your trigger finger. Or your mouse click finger, potato tomato. You didn't have to log in between 10 and 11 on each Thursday to get a new crowbar skin, or find time each evening after 5 to collect points that then you can use later on to open something that may hold a new suit color for the enemies or a decal for your gun. You just played it end to end and had fun. So based on all that, modern gaming is dead, right? New games are trash and we should all just play Super Nintendo and PS1s forever. Actually, no. Everything I just said is true, but saying all new games suck is unfair and honestly a bit of a clickbait. Hopefully you'll find it in your hearts to forgive me again. The reality is, we are drowning in quantity, so it's hard to find the quality. While the giants are tripping over their own shoelaces, we have numerous modern games on the market that prove the passion is still alive. You just have to look past the homepage. And with releases like Expedition 33 and basically countless amazing indie games, you can be assured that the future of gaming is far from done. And that despite what I claimed in the intro, new video games don't suck. I mean, many of them do, especially those that are made by the devs that just want to repeat their previous successes or milk us dry. But those that innovate are still passionate and still release fantastic games. So to summarize, new video games don't suck, they just often feel like it because it's greedy corporate trends that do. Suck, that is, and big time. But if you dig a little deeper and allow yourself to ignore the constantly reheated same dry burgers, then you can easily find sweet tasty nuggets of playability between them, even if they're made by smaller and less oppressed by the share owners devs. In fact, I'd risk saying that if you know how and where to look, gaming is better than it's ever been. It's once again just a matter of quantity burying the quality. What do you think about it though? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit those like, share and bell icons below, it helps more than you know. Thanks a lot for watching, take care of yourself and I'll talk to you soon.